Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to everyone who has joined us from around the world for Innovating for Excellence in Engineering Education. I'm just delighted to have you with us. I am Kristen Williamson. I'm founder and CEO of Petrus, and I'm going to be your host today. I see many familiar faces in the webinar, but for those who don't know us, Petrus are a global design agency. We specialize in university industry relations and in student employability. And I am also, as you can see on the screen, the co-chair of the Global Engineering Deans Council Industry Forum. And I am just delighted to bring together today our industry forum partners, the International Society for Engineering Pedagogy, together with Coursera for Campus, to explore our theme. It's just great to see everybody introducing themselves in the chat so that we know who you are and where you are and what's happening in your area. So please keep on using the chat, and you can use that for questions as well as we go through the presentations today. We're going to be together for an hour, and let me just give you a few words about our topic and about our speakers, and then I'm going to hand the floor straight over to them. They have plenty to share with us. IGIP, the International Society for Engineering Pedagogy, was founded in 1972 in Austria, so just 1 year younger than I am, in fact, linking for the first time, as far as we know, the concept of engineering and pedagogy on a scientific level. Now, IGIP works with engineering educators to assure a well-balanced competence profile. In fact, there's a lot that has gone into the work that IGIP do, and so I'm thrilled to have with us today the IGIP president, Hanno Orcher, who is going to take you through, in particular, the prototype pedagogy and the prototype curriculum that IGIP have developed. Hanno is a global expert, and he says no, but I have read his CV, and he really has worked with universities, institutions all over the world, with over 35 years of both scientific and practical experience in technical higher professional education. He works with universities and institutions and educators, actually. And Hanno said to me before we started that the key to excellence in engineering education is supporting the engineering educator. And I'm just thrilled that we're going to hear more from him about that. And as I said, the IGIP prototype curriculum. We have more time towards the end of the session if you would like to ask questions about IGIP and about what Hanno and his colleagues do. And I know that in the audience, we also have with us Michael Auer, the Secretary General, who'll be delighted also to answer questions. Now, in this thriving time of online education, I think Coursera needs no introduction. And I'm really thrilled that alongside IGIP, we're joined by Mike Howard, who is Partnerships Director for Coursera for Campus across the Europe, Middle East and Africa region. And while I say Coursera needs no introduction, I think that there are some things that Coursera for Campus do that can be surprising, in particular in the field of engineering education. And that's one of the real drivers behind this conversation today. I am excited to hear more from Mike about course authoring, about online labs, about guided projects, which can enable universities to offer students more of what they need and what they want. And in particular, a really interesting piece of work that Coursera are doing to identify country by country, what are the skills that employers are looking for so that universities can be confident that they're not only giving students excellent fundamental engineering education, but also the skills, the emerging skills that they need to succeed in the labor market. So we have plenty of time for discussion and questions. Don't wait until the end. If you have questions, write them already, because I will be picking them up as we go through. And, you know, we're a community, right? And maybe people in the audience will also have answers to your questions and examples to give. So please keep the chat going as we speak. And now is the time that I'm going to hand over. We're going to hear from Hanno first. So Hanno, if you would like to get ready to share your screen and share your slides, and I will hand the floor to you with pleasure. Over to you, Hanno.
The screen is not yet free for me. Please, would you do that? Okay, I have it.
Perfect. We see you well, Hanno.
You can see, oh, very nice. At the beginning of my speech, I would like to convey the greetings of the IGIP Executive Committee, and at the same time, first, thanks to the organizer of the webinar. Let me start my short speech with a statement. Kirsten, you have mentioned already this statement. I would like to repeat. In addition to an innovative curriculum, engineering education curriculum, the key to excellence is really the engineering educator as an educator in engineering sciences. I do not want to devote myself to design of curricula in my speech today, of course. Also, that would be also very interesting for all of us. I'm turning to the qualifications of engineering educators. After all, this point is one of the most important priorities of IGIP's work. Today, I would like to introduce you to a new approach, a new designed approach of the IGIP prototype curriculum for the qualification of engineering educators. I have planned this short speech in 3 steps. First of all, I would like to give you a very brief reminder of the origin of the idea of further training for engineering educators. Secondly, a brief analysis of the existing curriculum, and this leads me direct to the methodological approach of the new prototype curriculum. And last but not least, maybe a detailed description of the prototype curriculum is not possible. Maybe we can take this part in the discussion of our forum. Let me start. I would like to start with the history. Very short, very briefly, the IGIP curriculum, which has developed by Adolf Melisinek. This name is very important for us European because he was one of the first. He was also one of the founder of the IGIP. And he and the International Monitoring Committee has been anchored since 1993 already as this curriculum as an advanced training program for, first of all, for technical teachers, but also for engineering educators. I'm working at the Technische Universität Dresden, University of Technology in Dresden. Maybe very interesting, the first professorship was for engineering pedagogy was Professor Lohmann already in 1949. This is, in my opinion, today still amazing. 2 years later, in 1951, the first Institute for Engineering Pedagogics was founded at our university. Its task consisted to qualify engineering educators at national levels, at the national level. Maybe this was the first professorship in Europe, I'm sure, maybe in the world for engineering pedagogy. Thirdly, the currently valid IGIP prototype curriculum, which is implemented by several accredited IGIP training center. I have seen Uriel in the auditorium. He is one of the directors of such a accredited IGIP training center. And these training centers you can find in different countries. And this curriculum is valid since 2006. And for 2 years ago, we have designed this curriculum new. And now, step by step, the training centers has to take it over and they has to create new modules, new units. Unfortunately, we have to realize that in most countries, there's no training for teachers, that means for engineering educators, teacher as engineering educators in the formal education system. As is it the case for the teacher in general education, or also in vocational education. There we teach teachers at the universities and other higher education institutes, but there is no basic education for engineering educators. And so I don't want to comment not all the 3 pillars here on the slide. The qualification of an engineering educator is based on 3 different pillars, and you see also the experiences of engineering educators very important, and we include these 3 pillars also in our curriculum. I'm going on. Kirsten, you have mentioned already that is one of the main tasks of IGIP, that we try to push forward the education and the further education of engineering educators. For this, we have created a so-called InchPed IGIP. This InchPed IGIP, you can imagine, is like a register which certificates a certain education level for teacher, trainer, or instructor, which is given by the IGIP prototype curriculum. Any engineering educator who passes this curriculum at any accredited training center in the different countries for international engineering education, and whose education, training, and professional experience meet such IGIP standards may apply for the standardized certification International Engineering Educator, or shortly InchPed. That is a little bit advertisement for IGIP. I go on. I come to the second point. Why do we have tried to design our prototype curriculum new? Maybe I can formulate it in 3 different parts of a change processes that has happened since a couple of years. First of all, everybody knows that we have a very fast development process in changing of management processes at higher education institutions. Sometimes we name it change management. This is similar to this, what has happened in the production lines or in the service structures. We try to push out this hierarchical structure of administration, of research, and so on. And we try to come from a classical Tayloristic structure and hierarchy to a lean management structure also at the university, at higher education institution. This process is not so easy, in my opinion, and we have to pay attention for that. And we also have to give some help for these processes because they are really not easy. The second one is everybody who is working in the field of engineering education or at higher education institution knows, last but not least, when you're thinking about the so-called Bologna process in Europe, we have and had to change traditional curriculum and the teaching and study methods. I don't want to comment this one, only I give some keywords like coming from the Bologna process, think about outcome-oriented curricula, qualifications, competencies are defined as goals, not knowledge only. Or think about this the learner-oriented approaches. That means we have defined in the new, or we have to define in the new curriculum workload, new examination designs, very difficult for a lot of engineering educators. The third one, maybe not so often in discussion, is a change of research character and its organization. I have mentioned already, my university, the Technical University of Dresden, is one of the 11 excellence universities in Germany. It is characterized by, I would like to say, by very good engineering education, which has a very close connection to the companies and their needs. Dresden is the city in Germany with the most of the non-university research institutions, such as Max Planck, Fraunhofer, etc. It is typical that many professors work for 50% in the university and for 50% in a research institute. But that is only part of a new division of labor in research, which makes it possible, however, to incorporate research results directly to the university teaching. Time is limited. I go on, but this field is very, very interesting. And maybe in the discussion, I can also answer to one question I got already. I'm going on. to the needs and demands. This what I have stated now, these three different parts of change processes or change at the university. Of course, in the last year, we can observe that many countries, they try to have a lot of activities. I have seen one colleague from Chile here, and I think in Chile they try to reconstruct the university system. It's called Engineering 2030, and this is similar in other countries. A lot of activities, but I would like to say it is not easy. So a large of education providers are opening up countless of others to the universities. This is okay, this is right. But what we have seen in our analysis is the quality of these offers are very, very different. I don't say they are weak or bad, they are different. And so in our opinion, the IGIP Executive Committee said we have to overwork to reconstruct and to reconstruct our prototype curriculum. And I give you now some results from this reconstruction and from this process. So I come into the next part of my speech, this a new prototype curriculum. As the changes in the new prototype curriculum are characterized by different main features. I would like to take some out and would like to explain them. One very important step are, in my opinion, we extend the target groups of the prototype curriculum. For the past years, in the past, we had engineering educators and future staff in engineering education as the main target groups. But then you remember my statements about the processes happened at the universities. So we have to integrate in further education processes also deans and heads of faculties, schools and departments, because they are the leaders and they have to push such processes forward, and they have to understand what has happened on the different levels of engineering education. The same is for the administration, management staff at higher education institution. The administration sometimes in a lot of universities, also at my university, is like a gap or like a black hole sometimes, and very complicated when you would like to push forward new processes, what I have characterized by 50% working in the non-university research institute and on the other side at the university. And we also have integrated, again, technical vocational teacher at higher vocational colleges. Because in these colleges, we produce our new engineering students. And so we have to work very closely with them together, and we have to bring our approaches into the colleges and the approaches from the colleges to the universities, and we have to find a matching between both. Looking at the watch, please, Kirsten, interrupt me, please, if anything is too long. I would like to come.
Okay, you have time.
Thank you. I would like to come to two approaches. One is more a concept I have wrote here, an holistic didactic concept for our prototype curriculum. What does it mean? This is a methodology, this concept. When we teach students the future engineers, we have to pay attention, of course, to more than the sciences only. And this I would like to explain on this next slide. Of course, economics, profession, engineer as a reference field is playing a big role. I spoke already about the changes in the production and service structure. Dramatic changes when we go in the companies since 2000 is a dramatic change in this structure, especially in the big companies, but also in the middle-sized companies in Germany and in a lot of other countries in Europe. But these changes has a big influence also of our education of engineers, because the working tasks, the working actions, and also the duties of the engineers are changed, have changed. Think about about car assembling in modern car companies. When you have a look in Dutch, what has happened there, so you can see that today we need a special type of engineer, and this engineer is able to work in a production line together in a team with a technician, with a skilled, with a very high skilled worker. And that is a new prototype going. It is not only a scientist as an engineer or a theoretical thinking. He has also to get some practical skills. The first reference field. The second one, that is maybe is the most famous or reference field. This is sciences, engineering sciences themselves as reference field. But also here in this field, we have a very, very fast development, because when I speak these sentences already, maybe a new discipline is rising up, is coming up in some universities again. A very fast development. I also don't want to discuss this closer, but I'm coming back to this field because behind this structure of sciences are very complicated didactics and methodical problems. I'm coming back to this. The second one is, of course, when we are educate engineers, so we have also to pay attention to education policy, to social policies, to specification in different in these fields. That means we have socially certain norms. We have to pay to values. We discuss a long time already the ethics of an engineer. What does it mean? And we should also think about the socialization function at working places. The legal framework is also playing a big role. The next field is, of course, the student itself, or the participants in a further education. Maybe I should put them on the first place, but in my opinion, yes, the first place is in the midpoint. The engineering student as a reference field, we have seen this in the last 2 years in the pandemic. The students have changed, I can say, its own life. They have other ideas about career paths. They have other conditions for studying, and so on and so on. And we have to pay attention to these changes. And one, Mike, you speak after me about the different possibilities to use technical, how can I say, equipment, for instance, in online webinars, or I don't know what you explain exactly, but this is a big change also. In our university, we have decided, please, as a lecturer, you have to prove, do we need lectures anymore? Of course, I think we need it, but when do we need a lecture? When it's not necessary. When can use it in an online form, or and so on. You see, there's a lot of changes, but I would like to pay attention to another element of this holistic concept, psychology. Of course, not psychology itself, or in general. Learning and development psychological findings are always interesting. I would like your interest to a special kind of a special part of the psychology, the act theory, excuse me, act theory. I come to my 2 last slides. With the next slide, I'm coming. Excuse me, I spoke too loud and Siri was coming up. She thought I would like to discuss with her, but it's not true. Okay, I'm coming to the next, 2 more slides. I have mentioned already the structure of the sciences, of the engineering sciences, is very important as a reference field. This structure, when we try to analyze it, is a factual, logical structure, or with other words, is a system of theories. But this system of theories, we have to teach. The student have to learn it, to study it. But studying means acting. But this acting will be fixed in mental structure inside the students as an internal model. But this structure is not is not the same like the structure of the scientific necessities. It is a structure of learning acts, a special mental structure. But we can go on. Maybe another remark. This part can describe from Piaget in the act theory. He said this is a part of construction. But we need this knowledge, the system of theories and so on, but we have to apply it. We have to transfer this in the practice. But this transfer process creates again a new mental structure, a mental structure of working acts. And this mental structure of working acts is not the same like this structure, what was constructed in the phase of the acquisition of the system of theories. And always behind this stand, do we have really a representation of the engineering sciences in these two mental structures of learning act and in working act? Behind this, a lot of different didactical approaches we have to use, and we have to change a lot of our didactical methodical practice. Yeah, last slide. Next approach. Go on. Excuse me. Next approach. This approach may be I have mentioned already this word construction, reconstruction, transfer. These three words are playing a big role in the engineering education. Last but not least, an engineer has to work on a concrete working place. He has to fulfill working tasks, has to pay attention to the duties in this professional field. But this process is not so easy. But this process could be described in the phase of studying with three different phases: construction, reconstruction, and transfer. The construction, these three terms are coming from Piaget. Maybe if you would like to read more about this, construction, reconstruction, these both phases are, last but not least, from the result here, different mental structures. And our curriculum, our prototype curriculum, follows equal this approach. That means in our prototype curriculum, we have some attendant phases, because if you want like to construct together with a student a special knowledge structure, then you have to give some help. You have to support him. And so in this field, the attendant phase is necessary. But the next phase is what is acquired by the students themselves. This has to be reconstructed and has to be prepared for transfer into the practice. And this phase is always a phase of self-steering learning. And last but not least, the last phase is a transfer to the concrete acting in the practice. That means in the professional fields. This phase has to be at the beginning, of course, also, or needs a support. I named it as a phase of coaching. And what we are doing in the curriculum approach of IGIP, we explain the participants these phases, and we train these phases together, and the medium is a prototype curriculum, the content of the prototype curriculum. And via this, we try to find a transfer from this to the concrete engineering education for each participant. So I see my time is over.
Thank you, Hanno. Well, Hanno, that's an absolutely brilliant start, and I know that you have some information on the prototype as well, and we'll come to that if we can at the end. But this is also something, and just to answer one quick question, we will be sharing the slides as well. I know there's lots of information on the IGIP website, but we will be sharing Hanno's slides as well. Thank you so much, Hanno. And maybe if I can just say, we've already got some questions coming in. I'm going to ask Mike to get ready to share his presentation. And while we're doing that, maybe I can already start with one quick question for Hanno. And I think this is great. It kind of demonstrates also the international audience and the importance of understanding all the same concepts. We have one question from Vincent on can you explain what is didactics? Can you give us a brief explanation on didactics?
This is the first question I also put for the students, especially for my foreign students. What is didactic? Didactics is a term, and the word of the term is coming from the Greek language, the antique Greek language. Very interesting. But didactic means design of teaching and learning. The word is really was transferred from the Greek language to the German language, the Latin language, German language, and then step by step in other languages. Unfortunately, a little bit late in the English language, so it was always very difficult to translate it. Didactic again means how we have to design teaching and learning. Mm. And that means also includes the methods, the different media, which contents are necessary, how to formulate goals. All this was what you need for designing a lecture, a seminar, and so on. This is didactics. It's maybe a little bit a typical didactical term, because in the English-speaking countries, you very often find another word, educational technology. Mm. But this word is, in my opinion, not very, very good, because pedagogy is not a technology.
I know, that's great, and even slightly provocative, because now we'll come on to some great expertise in educational technology, but also I think it would be fair to say in didactics, as I hand the mic over to Mike Howard to tell us about Coursera's approach. And thank you to Bernadette, to Ivan. I see your questions. We will definitely come back to them once we've heard from Mike Howard. Thank you. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you too. Thank you to the audience.
Great, thank you very much, Hanno. That was really interesting. And thank you, Kirsten, for setting up this event. Can you hear me okay, and can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see you, we can hear you. You're good to go, Mike.
That's great. Okay, so Hanno was rightly described as a global expert in engineering and pedagogy. I think the first thing I need to say is that I'm afraid I'm not even a regional expert when it comes to engineering. But I do know quite a lot about online learning, and I know quite a lot about Coursera, so that's hopefully will make up for it. However, if there are any technical questions specifically around our engineering courses and our Coursera Labs, I do have a colleague at hand, Michael O'Neill, who is better qualified, let me say, to answer some maybe more technical questions. So he's available in the chat or the Q&A for any of your questions that you might have. Now, Hanno talked about the rapid changes going on in higher education. And in fact, these changes are happening in all the different areas of our lives, the way we live, our leisure, but specifically in areas of work and industry. And so where we're coming from at Coursera for Campus, which has existed for getting on for 2 years now. Before Coursera for Campus, we worked with industry, with businesses all around the world, and that was set up Coursera has been in existence since 2011, and I guess about 2016 we started working in partnership with industries. And so what we've seen from these the change in this digital evolution towards more automation, and now accelerated enormously through the pandemic that sadly we're all still living through, is the rapid change in skills required by the industry of today, particularly around the area of emerging skills. And some of the half-life of these skills, they change so rapidly, so that skills that are required today when students maybe enter their first year, by the time they leave university, those skills could have completely changed. That's how rapidly things are changing. So where we're coming from at Coursera is looking how we can balance the skills that are required in all different sorts of industry for jobs around the world, and how we can help develop those skills and keep up to date in those skills as we work and partner with universities, business schools, and specifically today, engineering schools from around the world. One of the changes that we've noticed is that employers are more and more likely these days to employ people, yes, based on their degrees and their masters, but more and more also now looking for specific skills and looking for evidence of specific skills that they require. And so 90% from the World Economic Forum review said that they would hire candidates based on a certificate demonstrating these specific particular skills from the likes of Coursera and of course other providers. So given that, this is what we're looking at and how we can look at these differences. Industry is changing really quickly, so the skills that they require are evolving really quickly. And the issues that engineering schools face is the time it takes to develop that content and source the faculty who are capable of teaching it, and therefore how you can keep up with the requirements of industry and to the requirements of students on their learning programs in your engineering schools. And it's not only that, the industry is telling us that they can't find the right people for the skills. There are so many unfilled technology positions. This comes from CompTIA. There are currently 920,000 unfilled technology positions. Okay, a massive shortage of software engineering talent. Senior executives are struggling to find people. 63% of talent is having trouble finding them. And it's in average taking around 66 days to fill new technology jobs. So there's a real issue here, a mismatch between the skills coming out of universities and engineering schools and these new rapidly changing skills required by industries around the world. Now we're talking about, specifically around engineering skills, but the fact is, where we're coming from at Coursera, we consider ourselves to be a skills transformation company, because particularly around these new skills, the way skills work these days is that they're not just fit to particular jobs. And indeed, all different types of skills are required in a digital world for whatever domain you're going into and whatever domain you're studying in. So business students, for example, require technical skills. If a business leader doesn't understand machine learning and artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, they're going to struggle to be really effective business leaders. And likewise, engineering students may require, many of them will be going into businesses. Maybe many will want to run their own businesses. And so it's going to be really important to them to have basic business skills. And of course, everybody needs these new, well, not new, but these human or life skills that employers are telling us are becoming actually essential skills in all different domains and all different areas of work. So where we are at Coursera, very briefly, we currently have 82 million learners on our platform. About half of those are individual learners who go onto the platform, can take a course. Most of our courses are available for free, but then if you want to actually have the certificate and do the final assessments, then you need to pay for it. And then about half of that 82 million are built around the industry partners that we've created, and now more and more university, business school and engineering partners. Now, the great benefit of having so many people on our platform is the huge amount of data that gives us. And particularly now, the really fine understanding of data right across the world, and we can isolate that data in terms of industries, countries and regions to really understand the skills that are required in all those different areas and domains. So that's really, really valuable information for us. And then we're working now with more and more business partners, government partners, and university and business and engineering school partners all around the world. And the final part of this sort of ecosystem is on the bottom left. This is about where we get our content from. Coursera doesn't develop our own content. We work with content development partners where we choose the best universities and schools from around the world. We have about 200 university and industry partners of the highest quality so that we can ensure that our content is the best content that you can find from anywhere around the world, working with the best universities, but delivered using the latest online pedagogies. So that's where we are. We work with more than half of the top 50 engineering schools, help us develop our specific engineering technology. And of course, our industry partners such as Google, IBM, and Amazon, etc., particularly in the areas of professional certifications. And of course, we work with companies right across the world and this is how we can understand the skills that they require. Here's just some examples of the companies that we are working with. Now, where we are in terms of our content, we mainly focus on courses, and a course at Coursera will last somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks. They all lead to a certificate delivered through Coursera and the university who provided the content. And this is if you study between 3 and 5 hours a week, you can generally finish a course in 4 to 6 weeks. But we also have a large number of specializations and an increasing number of professional certificates. I'll show you an example of these. And then one of the things I want to talk to you about today is guided projects which form part of our Coursera Labs. And what these are very short practical courses, putting into practice what you've learned in theory. It's sort of, I guess it's the missing part of the jigsaw of online learning. How do you put into practice online what you've learned in theory? So I want to focus a little bit more on that and look then at the skills that we understand right across the different working areas from engineering, data science, product, finance. These all require skills in business skills, tech skills, and data skills. And we have a global skills report, which we can share and can be downloaded from our website, where we've looked per industry and per country at how those countries are doing in those skills development in terms of whether they're advanced or lagging behind in the developments that are required. So, and here's just a brief look at some of the professional certificates, which I say we work with our industry partners. So you can see some of them from entry-level certificates to the more analytics and data side and the technology. So we have IBM, Artificial Intelligence Engineering professional certificate. We have cloud engineering with Google. These are some of the new ones. We have about 45 of these, which are becoming really, really popular and useful. We don't only work in data science and computer, we also have many courses in business and across all different areas and domains as well. And I think particularly the one to highlight is these human skills or the life skills, which we're really focusing more and more on because our industry partners are telling us that these are skills that are essential and are missing. So we have a multidisciplinary approach. When you have a license for Coursera, it actually gives you access to all of our content and all of our certifications. So you can personalize your learning for your students in the areas that they require. And as I say, engineering students will require obviously technical skills, but they also may require business skills or human skills. And one license in Coursera will give them access to all of that, which will lead to a certificate. A few examples here, which is branded through Coursera and of course the university that provided it. So this means that for students, as well as having a degree or a master's from your engineering school, they can match that with the specific certificates demonstrating the acquisition of the specific skills that they may be requiring for the jobs they're looking for. So it's a real value add in terms of their employability. Now, I want to focus just a little bit on the Coursera Labs, which was the 2 to 3 hour practical skills which I talked about. And what I'm going to do is I'll just come out of this and just put in the chat, if I can, Let me just find the, here. I'm going to put in a chat into a link of a blog, here we are, which will give you some more details of what I'm about to talk about, including lists of the Coursera Labs and the assignments that we use. So Coursera Labs is made up of 3 elements: guided projects, lab assignments, and lab sandboxes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those. Firstly, in terms of all of them, the beauty is that this is a way of working with specific software, specific program packages, but the students don't need to download any of the software. It's all embedded on the platform. It's all integrated. So all they need to do is open the browser and they can have access to the software through the browser. Now, the guided projects are standalone projects. We currently have 2,000 of these, and they are standalone. So you sign up for the course. On the right-hand side of the screen, the student will see a video of the teacher taking them through this specific, remember, just a 2 or 3 hour project. And then on the left-hand side of the screen, I think this is using Tableau for data analytics, the student will then follow the instructions and carry out the project. These are incredibly popular. We have about 2 million students who've taken guided projects in the past 18 months. And as I say, we have about 2,000 of them and increasing, and they cover all sorts of areas. So obviously many to do with programming, such as Python programming, building websites, but also things for business students like in Salesforce or project management or digital marketing, really a huge number there. And one of the things you'll be able to see on the link that I sent you is a link to all of our guided projects with a full list of them for you to look at. So moving then on to lab assignments. Lab assignments, again, this is explained in the link that I sent you. Lab assignments are part of the courses. There are over 200 courses which have integrated lab assignments. And it's a way of carrying out technical assessments or activities using mostly programming software. And again, there is a full list of all these courses, all the lab assignments in the link that I sent you, but they include some of our specializations include these lab assignments, such as applied data science with Python specialization from the University of Michigan. There's MySQL, analytic techniques for business specialization. There's mathematics for machine learning, etc., etc. So these are really, really useful, and they're auto-graded, so you can have a reported grade for the students. And then finally, the Sandbox element, the lab sandbox, is a really useful way for students to be able to, it's sort of working in an in-browser cloud workspace which is pre-configured with specific tools and packages that are relevant to the courses. So we have lots of courses which have inbuilt sandboxes, and here students can basically, like in a sandbox, you can just play around, and because it's working in the software is embedded, they can't damage anything. So it's a sort of secure environment for the students to really get that hands-on experience, that practical hands-on experience. And again, we have a curated collection of courses with a link in that blog that you can look at. So this is the final slide. It's really just saying these are the sort of real-world tools that we use in our learning experiences. So the guided projects, assignments, and sandboxes. You can see examples: VS Code, Jupyter Notebook, RStudio, Android Studio, Unity, Tableau, and other custom applications. And one of the things that we also offer our partners is the ability to author your own content for your students. We provide training for that. So that's not just for the courses, it's also for these guided projects and any assignments as well. You can create those for your own students within the private authoring software that we offer you. So you can use exactly the same tools that our content providers use when they build the courses and guided projects that are available to everybody. So I think I'm going to end there. How is that for timing?
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mike. That was great, and that built really very well on what Hanno had shared with us. And Hanno and Mike, if you want to keep your mics open now, we will go to some more questions. Thank you, Hanno, as well, for increasing the productivity of our session as we worked by answering questions in writing in the chat. That was just brilliant. Thank you. But we've got a couple more that weren't answered yet, and a couple that I would really like to go back to as well. And I'm going to pick up on one first. And what I would say is, I know that there are some people in our audience who are particularly engaged on this topic as well. I'm thinking we have Babatunda, I think, from Coventry University, involved in the Society of Petroleum Engineers. And I was going to say, if you wanted to share something on this too. We have a question about environmental sciences. How can we motivate engineering educators to really get involved in environmental sciences? How can we motivate engineers as well to get involved in environmental sciences? I guess what's behind this question is thinking about how can we embed sustainability and the environment at the heart of engineering, rather than as something that we think of at a latter stage when sometimes it's too late. Do you want to, Mike, do you want to kick off on that, and then we'll come to Hanno?
Well, from I've sort of already mentioned it, but from the Coursera perspective, I think the key advantage of our model of having a license which gives access to everything is that so the teachers can create programs for their students, and they can make them compulsory or not. And the students can also look at the catalogue that is available to them. And we have lots of courses on sustainability throughout all the different areas that we work in. So that's really all I can say at this stage. How we can encourage, I mean, I think most young people in this generation are really concerned about the environment and sustainability, maybe more so than our generation. So we rapidly develop these courses built in these areas because there is a huge demand for them. It's the future. We know it's the future. It's the future of engineering, but it's also the future of all the different areas of work, and therefore it's the future of education. So it's our duty to ensure that we keep completely up to date with the latest developments in that area.
Okay, thanks. And Hanno, what would you add?
The question was how to motivate the student for such sciences. How to motivate? In my opinion, the student has to motivate itself. But the question is always, what is the motivation for a student to study a sciences? Maybe some interest he got before, but very important is also that they have a good career path. And in this country, Mike, you have mentioned also already, in Europe, this is not such a big problem with this field. We have enough study as students in environmental sciences. And if the student knows I have a good career path into different countries, in research institutes, then it's not a problem. But I mean, this relationship, what we every time discuss between universities and the companies, middle-sized companies, small companies, big companies, is a key also for this motivation for the students. If the student know, for instance, some countries we know that, I don't want to name them, that maybe 80% of all the bachelor students are unemployed because they don't have such skills what the market needs.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem is always this relationship between labor market and universities. We don't have to sit in a glass house.
So we need to, improve the understanding. I like very much the comment that Babatunda has made as well, is down in the chat if you want to read that there. I think our experience as well, I would say that students are passionate about sustainability, but often think their passion is enough and don't realize that you need skills for sustainability. And if we can be communicators as well as educators and help students understand that in order to solve X problem, you need to learn how to do this and this. And that's very much linked to the career trajectory that you've talked about, Hannah. And maybe there is some interesting work going on around the Sustainable Development Goals and trying to explain to students what kind of skills, what kind of education can help you to address some of the Sustainable Development Goals. Maybe we need to do more communication on that as well. Lots more interesting questions. this is one specifically for Hanno, and it's from Aldert. Hi Aldert, great to have you with us. Thank you for joining. Hanno, you have a wide variety in target groups that have different needs for upskilling.
Yes.
Do you differentiate? So how do you differentiate the curricula per target group? And do you mix the target groups?
This prototype curriculum is a modularized curriculum, and it is very open. You can change not the module areas, but you can change the units from the module areas. You can adapt different units to your condition, to the target groups, but also to the condition in your regional countries. And so it's very flexible. Yeah, and so it's not a problem to meet the demands of a dean, for instance, or of an administrator or manager in an administration at a university. This is the flexibility of this prototype curriculum. We don't describe too much. We also don't describe methods, special methods. We recommend. But last but not least, teaching is always a part of culture, and so we have also to pay attention to this culture in the different countries. And so this must be open, I think. And this openness of this curriculum allows us also to make this target group brighter.
Thank you, Hanno, and thank you, and Alden, and I'll just mention this for all of the people here. In the industry forum, we will have some open discussion groups about some of these topics. It's taking place in September. We'll have a hangout in advance of the industry forum, where I hope we'll be able to have Hanno, his colleague Michael, Alden come together and discuss this in more detail than we can do in the few minutes of the discussion here. But I hope that that's given you a start. I think this is one for Mike. We have a question from Srinivasan. Are there any courses exclusively for chemistry teachers where you wouldn't need to have experience of programming? If that makes sense, is that something that you can comment on? So
we have over 5,000 courses, and unfortunately I can't remember what they all are. but the best thing to do is to go onto our website, coursera.org, and there is a search bar, and you can even filter some of this. If you go in there and click enter, you can get a filter for some of the searches, and then you will find whatever you want. And we have courses in chemistry. Yes, we do.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mike. And thanks also to Michael O'Neill. You've posted an answer there in the chat as well. And I'll just come back to Bernadette also asked a question about university industry interaction, and you responded to that, Hanno. And I'd also just say, to add to that, really to using projects, getting students to work on projects, society-oriented projects. They absolutely can build in sustainability as well with your local companies or the companies who are near to your universities, or even those who are involved in your universities in research projects. If you can get students to work on real projects and have the companies involved as mentors, it's a great way to harness the energy, the passion of the student, and the availability of engineers and the companies who actually love to give back to students and share their expertise, and get the students working on something that's got sustainability right at the heart of it, right at the start of their degrees. And there's no reason to wait until the final year project to do that. And students can do it even right from year one. We have reached the end of our time, and I think that we could continue this discussion really for quite some time already. But we will wrap up now. We will definitely, please make sure you signed up to our newsletters. We'll keep you posted. We'll have more discussions at this time of this kind, and in particular around sustainability and industry university interaction, and getting students not just the skills, but the confidence and the knowledge that they need to start off successfully in the labour market. It's something that we know that they are concerned about right now, and it's something that we really want to work together with our partners on. So thank you all. I just really remains me to say to Hanno, to Mike, for your great preparation and the very, very interesting slides and topics that you shared with us. We will make sure that they are available in a link to everybody who's joined us for the webinar. And thank you all, audience, for your commitment, your dedication. As Hanno said, excellence in engineering education comes from the excellent engineering educator, and we will take another step towards that today together. So thank you very much. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.